Got other guy Sean Fazende from Fox 8 in Knoll. Sean, how are you?
Doing all right. Just getting ready for training camp. How are you?
We're doing quite well. Before we get to the Saints, just briefly, it looks like you were in the Dome or in the Smoothie King Center, I should say, on Saturday. What can you tell us about UFC 318?
Unreal. Just a phenomenal live event. And to be honest, it's one of the first few times I've been, doing what we do. I haven't been in the stands a lot. Normally I'm doing, media stuff or press box or whatever, but I happen to sit in the stands for this one in the seats. Just an incredible event, incredible energy. I'm a huge Poirier fan. I know it was a tough loss, but I thought he went out right. I thought the crowd brought it. I thought it was a great card. Dana White certainly liked it. You don't really have to be a big-time UFC person to appreciate a live event like that. I thought it was a grand slam. I really did. It was phenomenal.
That's cool. The city looked awesome on TV. We had a big event at the casino here in Baton Rouge, and it looked great. And so I'm glad to hear that it looked right as good in person. Let's talk black and gold. Tyler Shough signs on the dotted line over the weekend. Was there any doubt that was going to get done here before camp, or was there a little bit of a testy energy?
No, it was going to get done. The question was, were they going to get 100% guarantee, 94% guarantee, 96% guarantee? But once the numbers started coming in, and the two picks behind getting 92% guarantee, and the pick right before him is getting fully guaranteed, him being the only quarterback, it was pretty much the deal had been done for them. It never got contentious. But I will say this, for Tyler Shough's case, he could not afford to hold out. I mean, those days have been drastically reduced, obviously, since the old days with obviously the new CBA with the way everything slotted. So I don't think it would have ever gotten to holdout stage. Fortunately, it's not going to get to that point. But once this week of training camp got here, or once this week of sort of moves got here, as they got closer and closer to training camps around the NFL, you just saw every second-round pick coming off the books, and it was only a matter of time. And at the end of the day, look, it's fully guaranteed, yes, but in the grand scheme of things, 4 years, 10.7 is not. It's not going to bury you for a guaranteed contract. And also, look, if he somehow becomes a player, a big time player, I mean, that will end up being a bargain for the Saints. So, all in all, no real contention. They got the deal done. We can all focus on training camp.
How do you expect the reps to be split as we start training camp here this week between Rattler and Shough?
That's a great question. In the off season, and a couple of practices we saw, it kind of rotated. And remember, we saw the third practice of the week until minicamp. So we didn't see the first two practices during the OTAs. And obviously, the first day we were out there was Rattler. Then they split first-team reps. Then it was Shough, and they split first-team reps. So I would expect a similar rep breakdown just in terms of who gets first-team opportunities. Be very curious if they try to work in Haener or Deggers at this point. I don't know. But it certainly feels like it's Rattler and Shough. It feels like to me also we're probably going to say Wednesday, the very first rep of practice probably went to Spencer Rattler just because I guess he's the closest thing to an incumbent, even though he's not the incumbent, obviously. But that wouldn't shock me if it went like that. But I expect an even distribution of reps throughout camp as they settle the obviously most important position on the field.
Yeah, how quickly will you think they want to make that call?
I think they're going to take as long as they need because I think there's going to be certain elements that they're just going to have to need game reps to at least get a decent evaluation on. I think that's unless someone really takes charge and pulls away early, I think they're going to take as much time as possible. And I think it's going to come all the way up through the preseason game because, look, you're talking about a guy with 7 appearances, 6 starts, not a single win in Spencer Rattler, one half of a start in Jake Haener, who obviously did not do well, and Tyler Shough, who's obviously a rookie. They need some reps, and you need some just reps for a pure evaluation standpoint. And I think it's going to be a lot of practice reps, obviously, and then obviously when you get to preseason, those reps will matter as well. So I think they're going to collect as much information, as much data as possible. It wouldn't shock me at all if we don't know. We may have an idea, but we wouldn't know officially until before the regular season starts.
Would it shock you if Rattler starts the first game?
Wouldn't, no, because I think there's some things that he showed in the limited space we were able to see in the offseason that he did a little bit better than Shough. Wouldn't shock me. I do think Shough is the favorite, just kind of my read on the situation, just because of the way they drafted him. He's got an explosive arm, and their teammates seem to be gravitating to him. But Rattler's a guy that's going to come in. He's going to compete, and if he can sort of hone in on the efficient part of the game and get better at the blitz, then I think he's got a legitimate shot. I do think if it's close, probably roll with Shough since that's the head coach's guy. They decided to use the second-round pick on him, the highest draft pick since Archie Manning. But I don't think it's a guarantee or a slam dunk by any means.
It creates an interesting dynamic in a locker room when the quarterback's unsettled. What do you think that means for the leadership, the culture, the environment, and kind of the reps day in and day out at practice when you don't have the guy?
It's a good question. I guess we can go back to the Jameis Taysom situation, but both those guys were veterans at that point, and it was a very veteran team at that point, which there seems to be kind of a mix with this team of young and old. So I do think that's just one of those situations where you just got to manage as best you can. If you're outside of the repetition of the reps from quarterback reps, you got to just do the best you can with what opportunities that you get. From a leadership standpoint, I don't know if you'd like to see one of those guys, because the quarterback is naturally a leadership position, sort of step up into that role and really embrace that role. But sometimes if you do that too quickly, you can rub teammates the wrong way. I think initially it'll be more the trusted guys, the Mario Davises, Cam Jordan, Eric McCoy, Foster Moreau types that will sort of carry the load when it comes to the leadership aspect of it. Hopefully one of those two quarterbacks can really grow into their role. And by the time season starts, gets rolling, they'll be more comfortable in that leadership aspect.
I led my show today. ESPN put together a list of the rosters in the NFL and ranked them 1 to 32, and they had the Saints at 32. That doesn't matter, but it is what it is. Does this feel different than any training camp that you covered, or is there one that you can recall that feels like this?
This is the first one I've covered like this,
yeah,
where there's just so many unknowns. I mean, look, you still got a 37-year-old head coach who's never been a head coach before and had a really meteoric rise to the coordinator ranks. You just talk about, from backup quarterback to QB coach to OC at 3 different stops with 3 high-end quarterbacks. So you're talking about a lot of unknowns. People ask me all the time how I think the Saints are going to do. I tell them I want to be dead wrong, but right now, I mean, based off what I'm seeing and based off what the roster looks like, and just just knowing football, and when you have a question mark at quarterback, brand new head coach, I mean, it doesn't shock me that ESPN was it ESPN that would rank the Saints roster like that. I don't think it's still to be determined, but I do think there are a lot more unknowns heading into this year than I can recall, just because everything is new. I mean, we're so used to 2 decades of just the Peyton way, even when Peyton wasn't here, to now a totally different way of doing things, just from a cultural standpoint, a practice standpoint, and throwing the fact you have you don't have a quarterback that's won a game in the NFL on your roster. I mean, there's certainly some legitimate questions going into the season. Is
there a non-quarterback storyline that you'll be diving into the first week of camp?
Yeah, there's a couple. I want to see who settles in at that third cornerback position. You got Isaac Yiadom, you got Riley, the rookie. It could be a spot where another guy comes in at some point if they are able to add before camp. And look, I am ready for this Saints offensive line to be the best position group on the team. I mean, just look at the investment up there. You've got 4 first-round picks and a second-round pick, all under the age of 28. That's kind of put together here for the Saints offensive line. Plus, they're better depth-wise with Will Clapp and Redund and Landon Young and those guys. So I'm ready for that offensive line to take that leap. And if that offensive line can take the leap, the multiplier that could bring, when you talk about stable offensive line, how much that can help the run game, how much that can help young quarterbacks, I think that's, if you're looking for maybe a sliver of hope, maybe that's where it can come from. Because if that comes together, I think that can have a very positive impact on the entire team.
Make sure you hydrate this week. It's going to be warm out there. Enjoy some football. We'll talk to you down the line.
All right, bud. Appreciate it.
That is Shough Fazende, Fox 8 down in New Orleans. Appreciate a little bit of time. It's funny how, you know what? That's an interesting kind of thought, is approaching the franchise as a whole. Because this time last year, we were looking at this team going, I just don't think the offensive line is going to be nearly good enough. Like, I don't know what Penning is, if he's at left tackle. I don't know what position Fuaga's going to play. He's never played a snap. Like, that's a little iffy. Left guard's up in the air. You're going to go with Lucas Patrick. Ruiz has been up and down. Maybe McCoy. And like, it was the biggest question mark on the team, really. And now you turn it around, and Fuaga had a great year, and McCoy's been awesome, and you drafted a first-rounder to go play on the left side, and you're moving Penning inside to a less demanding position, and all of a sudden you're looking at it going, man, if they're really good, that could be a foundation for this program. So it's like you go from the biggest question mark to maybe the best position group on the team in 12 months if you hit on 2 draft picks. If you hit on Fuaga and you hit on Banks, you change the entire complexion of it. And it lends itself to understanding just how big those draft picks are. You have to hit. If you're in a rut and you're low on talent and low on available funds, which the Saints are, you got to hit on the draft picks. And if Banks, Fuaga, and Shough are great, well, the Saints are going to be good quickly. If they're not, Saints are going to stay bad. So we'll see. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.